welcome to episode 67, 68?
67.
67, high 60s of Wrong End of the Stick podcast after what seems like an eternity from our last recording. We do have a jam-packed and planned and strategic kind of podcast for everyone today. It's not.
Well, it was. It was extremely well planned. We prepped. We decided what we were going to talk about. We had a huge number of topics. Then we ran out of time to do all the research we intended to do. We spent so long planning that we ran out of time to actually do any of the work that we planned. And so we decided we're just going to record anyway and hope for the best.
There's a moral or mantra
there is a moral,
in there.
But I feel like this is very much in the spirit of the podcast that,
Absolutely.
Let's just, you know what, all the planning in the world, at some point you just got to hit record and go for it. So, there you go. Are you going to tell people who we are, by the way?
Yes. We didn't even do proper intros. My goodness. So, yes, Zach Eaton here with skipper Jonathan Nimmo for Wrong End of the Stick podcast, and welcome back. It's been a long time.
It has been.
Hope you are all surviving in the heat.
Yeah, I think we missed like monsoon season, and we've come back to record in the biggest heat wave. Well, it's not the biggest heat wave, it's like a sort of mini heat wave. It's just mildly warm, particularly for those of you in Australia. It's just a little bit warm. But we just don't cope with it in this country. I've got a little thermometer on my desk and it's telling me it's 26.7 degrees in my room.
That's a lot.
For me, that's
too much.
28, 29 outside. Can't be dealing with it. So yeah, too much. We struggle.
Cool. All of our international listeners from India and Australia, we know that there's hundreds of you out there. That's quite a bit for us. We're used to rain, overcast skies all day. This sun, this brightness, at midday is just not
ridiculous.
It's too much for us. So let's get into it. What have we got?
Yeah, we're gonna. Well, I think there's going to be some changes coming to the podcast soon. We're going to have a bit of a revamp and a bit of a refresh and some new games and stuff that we're going to start devising. But in the spirit of that, we've got a few things to talk about. It was the first game of the 100 last night. We're going to come on and talk about that. And how successful or unsuccessful people thought it was. And we are going to do a quick catch up on a whole host of things. Given it's been about 6 weeks since we last recorded, there's been so much cricket. We've basically missed a huge chunk of the cricket season. So we're going to give a very super 5-minute quick roundup of that. Where we just run through a selected handful of topics where we give a quick update of what's going on. And then we're going to talk, then we'll go into the 100 and then we'll talk about England captain and the World Cup and all kinds of stuff before we run out of steam and have to go for a nice lie down and a cold drink of water again.
Yep.
Sound good?
Sounds awesome.
Right. So, shall we go into the Super 5?
The Super 5,
As you will find out when we start talking about 100, that is appropriately named Super 5, but this is our just 5-minute-ish catch-up of all the stuff that we've missed out talking about over the last 5-6 weeks. I don't know, I can't remember when we last spoke, but right, shall I kick us off?
Kick us off, let's hear it.
I'll do the first couple. So, first topic that we need to cover is the England-New Zealand series. Which we previewed and then I think basically just got a bit depressed at because England didn't really play it very well. So England, New Zealand, there were 2 tests. First test we drew and the second test New Zealand won. And it was a relatively comfortable win for them in the end. They sort of declared and there was, they looked as if there could have been a chance if England decided they could bat and they forgot entirely that they could do that. So England lost again fairly comfortably. So there was pretty heavy rotation again in the England team, and Root not performing great, to be honest. He got criticised for many of his decisions as captain, and he was quite conservative and didn't really look as if he had that killer instinct, didn't really look as if he had faith in his team, and it just generally wasn't great, particularly for the England batsmen. Again, Rory Burns did well, which weirdly you predicted.
He was about ready.
He was, and he played really well. So He's pretty much cemented his place in the team for a long time to come now, I think. And then we had that bit of controversy as well, where Ollie Robinson, who was playing, I think he was making his debut for England, played really well, took 7 wickets. But then it came out sort of midway through that test that he had tweeted some racist, sexist, and generally fairly horrible things in his past. I mean, it was a long way in his past. I think it was about 10 years ago, but that all came out, and he was roundly criticised for it. ECB launched an investigation. I don't know how you had to investigate it. The tweets were there for everyone to see, but and basically then came out and said that he was going to be banned for a number of tests, and so he then ducked out of the team again. And I think he's got like a 4-test ban, and 2 of them are suspended and stuff. But it was an unfortunate sullying, given he kind of exploded and was looking really good and promising as an England bowler, and then it didn't end terribly well for him. So. Yeah, I don't know what your take on that was, because there was a lot. It was tweets from a long time ago, but they were horrible tweets, and he shouldn't have been sending them. And he was old enough to know better at the time. And banned retrospectively. Ooh, I don't know. It's a really tough one. I'm not sure what the answer is.
It was, and I don't know all of the details of the tweets and how severe they were. I know the ECB weren't too keen, and the England cricketing, the England teams. Kind of leadership circles weren't too happy with, I think, the politicians voicing their opinions and probably doing it for, the kind of own sort of agendas as well. I think might have been the thought on it, on how to handle the sort of situation. I think that, people do need to realise that, I think it's apt, and I think the way that people have addressed it, it's relevant, and I think we do need to look at, kind of sexism, racism, any kind of hate speech, especially from, public figures in professional sport, and how we kind of manage that, and the boards that are associated with them handle that. We should expect a level of severity, but for me, I think we need to look at, how far ago those tweets were. Now, they were a long time ago, I think from his teens and early 20s or whatever it was. And, I think...
that's the bit that makes it complicated for me, because I think if it was current and something that he's like in the last year or so, and that this was, absolutely, and probably the punishment should have been more severe, but this was from I think it was about 10 years ago, when he was about 19 or something like that. And it's like, well, how far back do you go? I don't know. And I don't know quite how I feel about it. You're right. Politicians did kind of get involved. It was the time when the politicians were getting involved in England over a lot of things. They were criticising the England football team for taking a knee and all this kind of stuff, until the football team started doing well, and then suddenly they were going back on everything they said, and there was a whole bunch of other things going on at the time. But it's a really difficult one. I actually think the ECB handled it pretty well, and
I think so.
All in all, and I don't think the punishment was harsh enough to be saying this isn't acceptable, but it wasn't like it wasn't like a 12-month ban or anything like over the top. So I don't know. For me, I think they actually played it pretty well, which is rare for me to come out and say that.
No, I'd agree.
I think they did do pretty well, and I think it was handled. So I think he was dropped for the following game anyway, because of the rotation and stuff, and then it came out he was banned, so he banned to miss that one, and then the other 2 were suspended. So he's not massively missed out because of it, but the statement is made that this isn't acceptable, and this is what will happen. So overall, I think it probably ended the way it should have ended overall. But
no, I think it was handled appropriately. I think a 4-test ban is fair. For those kind of comments sort of being discovered, even despite the fact that, they weren't recent, I think you need to be accountable for those actions as representing England and what we kind of stand for. So, it is what it is. I don't think I hope that it doesn't hinder his, he's turned around, he's apologised at the end of the day.
Yeah, you'd hope he would still get another chance, because in cricketing terms, he played well. He looked good. He looked threatening. Taking 7 wickets in Test matches is really good and solid for your debut. So he looked really threatening. So from a cricket point of view, yeah, let's hope he's back at some point. We're running over massively, but my last note on that England-New Zealand game is Devon Conway on for New Zealand. I can't remember if it was his debut or not, but looked unbelievable and just undismissible. He looked reminiscent of Marnus Labuschagne in terms of just England did not know how to get him out, and he looks like a real player for New Zealand. So, yeah, that's good for that. In terms of it's been super 5 minutes, did I get the message wrong? And then we had 5 minutes on each topic. I don't know. But
well, let's do 5 minutes for each topic.
5 minutes on.
Let's do 5 minutes. Why not? Why not?
Exactly.
Keep it loose.
So, well, I'll go next, and then I'll throw over to you for the middle one. So the next one is England-India, the women's test match that they had. It's rare for these two teams to play test matches. There's not a lot of women's test matches out there, which is sad, but my hope is that the interest that there was in this one will really help to spark that a little bit more, to be honest, because I think it was a really interesting, really intriguing game, and it was one of the classic matches that sort of ebbed and flowed and was really intriguing. It was the only unfortunate thing was that it did end in a draw, but it was a really interesting draw. So England got 400, bowled India out for 231, and made them follow on, and then India was sort of scrapping, and it was really resilient, and time ran out on them. But England played really well, and there was just some really good shots played. There was Heather Knight got 95, Sophia Dunkley on debut got 74 not out. And Sophie Eccleston got 8 wickets, and a lot of people that wouldn't have known previously will know who she is because she played in the opening game of the 100 last night, and that we'll come on to that later on. So yeah, overall, just a really good game, played in the right spirit, and just only positive things. And let's have more women's Test cricket, please. There you go. That's my appeal to ECB and other international organisers. More.
More cricket. More cricket. We love it. Awesome. So, what do you reckon? Should we touch upon the World Test Championship and the outcome of that?
Yep, go for it.
Because, I mean, personally, I don't know how you feel, but, well, I mean, what a shocker. What an amazing turnaround for New Zealand. You would not expect, well, I certainly didn't expect, if I was a betting man, that New Zealand would show up and steal it away from India. The overall performance of the New Zealand team, I think following up from, some of the games that you mentioned as well, their form's been absolutely amazing. And, India have not been a joke either for the past year. In all formats of the game. So it's, two very different cricketing sides in their styles and their approaches to the game, in terms of Test cricket. But New Zealand chipping away at them and just kind of getting the wickets, getting the runs and taking the win. It's amazing. It's absolutely
it was,
amazing.
and it was a really interesting game. Again, it was another one of those that wasn't just totally one-sided. It was close, and I certainly wouldn't have predicted that outcome at all. I think we did speak off air about it, and I just couldn't see anything but an India win. And I thought it was really good and really interesting, and great that they got a result. It looked threatened by the weather for a while. But it was good that we got a result. I think the worst thing for cricket would have been that game being a draw. And I was texting our friend in India around that time, and he was saying that whatever happens, he didn't mind if India lost. He just wanted there to be a result, and I think that was positive all round.
I think if you look at the two styles of the captains as well, even beforehand in the 2019 Cricket World Cup, Kane is so he always looks so solemn, so focused. Do you know, as a captain? Do you know what I mean? Like, he looks like he's forever analysing the situation and his field placement. And I mean, New Zealand's kind of game in the field is just like impeccable, and not through kind of athleticism or, you know, some real kind of showstopper instances like you'd probably expect with India or the West Indies and stuff like that. But it's just calculated. It's a real kind of night and day for the two teams. But I'm really happy that they kind of came through and took the World Test Championship as well. For, I think, you know, out of the big international teams, you know, their performance over the past couple of years, they're looking stronger than I think than they ever before, really. And they've still got some of their legends in there, you know, in there and doing bits for them. So it's good to see like a team that's both aged well and is emerging as a new force in international cricket and in the longer form of the game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think everyone, aren't they everyone's second favourite team? You know, whoever you support, you gotta like and admire them for just the way they play the game. It's just, you know.
New Zealand, people from New Zealand are just lovely. Like,
I know, yeah.
Everybody I've met from New Zealand is just, they're like the Canadians of the.
Yeah, it's true.
Of the other
Southern
Hemisphere.
Hemisphere.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. They're just always kind of really polite, but I think just go back to, you know, the strength and the captaincy, which I think we'll touch upon later as well with England and the different styles, I think is really kind of shone. I think there's so many ways to skin a cat, but Kane just got it right this time. So big up to New Zealand for bringing it.
Definitely.
Bringing it to New Zealand.
Cool. Right. Shall I round this off with the last two topics then?
Sounds good.
And I will be quick on these ones, but one thing I do want to touch on is Australia, West Indies. So there's been 5 T20 games between those over the last few weeks. And the West Indies have won that series 4-1, winning really comfortably in the first 3 games. Australia then got a narrow win, and then lost the last one by 16 runs again. So it was, fairly comprehensive. Windies looking on home turf, but looking really good. And given this is a year with a T20 World Cup in it, that is not the kind of prep that Australia would have wanted to have. So they're now into one-day internationals where Australia won fairly comfortably that first one. But in terms of T20s, West Indies looking good. So World Cup coming up later this year in India in about November time, I think. That's an interesting one. And very final one that I want to touch on is county cricket. We planned to do a lot more on that this year and haven't so far, but so it's working slightly differently. County cricket in England this year. So they've had 3 groups of 6 teams, where the top 2 go through to another group called Division 1, and then the top 2 of that group will play in a sort of final, almost Test Championship style game. So the first 3 groups have had all the games played. So the top 2 from each of those, so Lancashire and Yorkshire went through from one group, Somerset and Hampshire from another, and Nottinghamshire and Warwickshire from the third. So they've now finished all that first stage, then they've got a bit of a break and they're having sort of the one-day competitions and stuff, and then they're going to play the later level ones later in the summer. So interesting stuff. So it's a kind of a final 6 group games to go through, and then it'll be the top 2 from there will go on to play the final. So that'll be an interesting to keep an eye on later in the summer. So we will revisit that at some point.
Nice. And
there we go.
That's the first Super 5 that we've done.
Super 5, yeah. And I mean, it took far longer than 5 minutes, but you know, some of them were fine, and then others we get talking about. I think that's again true to how we work. Is, you know, maybe the Super 5, maybe the 5 just relates to how many topics there are.
How many topics? How many times? 5 times 5. How long we talk about it? Maybe. Who knows? It's just.
Yeah. But shall we start talking about why we're talking about 5 so much?
Yes. Talk about the Super 5.
The Super 5. So 5 is all linked to the 100. So the 100 made its debut. And for long-term listeners, we have been talking about this for some time. We had a triple-headed, 3-part series about it. probably
Yep.
2 years ago now when this was all first being talked about. But finally, it actually kicked off last night. And so it's a new form of cricket, effectively. It's a bit like T20, but it's a little bit shorter, and there's a few other tweaks to the rules. I would generally recommend just going and watching it because it makes the rules a lot simpler when it's all in context. But part of the rules that they've switched is that they don't have overs in this. They have sets of 5 balls, and hence the 5 coming into this all over the place. So you only change ends every 10 balls, and a bowler can either bowl 5 or 10 in a row. It's up to the captain. So this actually gives the captain a little bit more flexibility. If, the bowler's bowling really well for the first 5, you can be like, right, let's just keep them on and bowl another 5. Or if it's been smacked around for the first 5, you're like, right, sub them out, get somebody else in and stuff. So it gives a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more tactical things to think about.
So it's like T20 with shorter overs.
A little bit, yeah. Kind of, yeah. Essentially, pretty much, yeah. And there's like tactical timeouts, and there's a few other tweaks and things, but effectively, this is the sort of ECB's plan to just get a new, different audience interested and involved in cricket. And it's been widely criticised as, it's going to be the end of county cricket and it's not going to succeed and it's an awful idea and it's basically just T20. But, all the talk about it came to an end last night. Last night it was shown live on BBC, which is kind of the main TV channel in this country. It got an audience of 1.6 million people.
Wow.
They've also been streamed about 200,000 times since then on iPlayer, on the kind of catch-up format, and which is a record. So that's a terrestrial record for any women's cricket match ever televised on BBC. And there was a crowd of over 7,000 there in person to see it,
awesome.
Which is also a modern day record for a domestic women's cricket match. And I have to say, it worked so well. It worked far better than I thought it would, to be honest. The crowd in there was so young. There were so many kids in there. It was amazing to see. They had like people off doing commentary in it, and sort of interviewing people. And there were so many people saying, yeah, never watched cricket before, just really interested to see it. And it was a really exciting match. So the two teams that were playing were the Oval Invincibles versus the Manchester Originals. Or for those of you, it does get slightly mocked because every team is sponsored by different brands of crisps. So it was KP versus McCoy's for those of you that are invested in the crisp side of things.
KP for me.
It led to a huge amount of hilarity on Twitter. I'm not going to lie. For the sort of light-hearted side of the cricket Twitter, there was a lot of chat, including me going late into the night last night about this kind of crisp-related battles. So yeah, it was all in good faith though. But genuinely, it's got a lot of praise for how it was done. It was very glitzy, glittery. It was very sort of almost sugary, but that was what it was aimed at. It was aimed at kids. It was aimed at young kids, and there was a lot of young kids there, and you could see the kids were absolutely loving it. And by the end, there were cheers and like there was a massive 6 hit towards the end of the game, which was pretty much set them on course to win. And the cheers and the thrills and the look in the kids' eyes they were all over it. They absolutely loved it. So as long as it continues like this, I think it could, I think it could be a great success. It was the best start that anyone involved in it could have hoped for. It got massively praised on Twitter for how many people were sort of watching on TV. As I say, I was flicking through Twitter most of the game, and there was a lot of people that were saying, never really watched cricket, but this is good, this is interesting, and this. And yeah, it wasn't massively different to T20, but it took something new for those people to be watching in the first place. At just a game of T20, they probably wouldn't have bothered watching. So, I think the critics of it, they've all got valid points, and there is still issues around it. But I don't think anyone would benefit if the 100 fails. So I think every cricket fan, even if you don't agree with it, should be celebrating the fact that it's off to a positive start, because if it does succeed, that can only be good for cricket. And so I think the fact is it has to be, I think it absolutely has to be seen as a really good positive thing. the new rules are a bit confusing until you start watching it. But actually, once you get into it, yeah, it was really good. It was really interesting. One thing I really liked, and I do hope they adopt more widely, is they had a helmet cam. So on the helmet of the ball of the batsman, or the batters, sorry, incorrect terminology there. So you could see the ball coming towards you, which in part was terrifying because I'm like, oh my word, it's coming. Like, what would I do? But it kind of gives you a kind of a sense of what it is like to face that cricket ball coming at you. Which, if you've never played cricket before, you do get an idea of what it's like. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I just thought the whole thing was done really well. The BBC production of it worked. They had a nice little half-hour build-up. They had the Tailenders podcast people, Greg James, and that all doing a little build-up to it, which worked really well. And I just thought from start to finish, it was a really good product. I thought it worked really well. And there's, they're now following that up with the same match. So the Oval Invincibles against Manchester Originals tonight. It will have probably already happened by the time we get this podcast out, so you're probably listening in the past now. But so the men's team coming in with Joss Butler playing and stuff, so they're trying to follow that up. And there's again a lot of the comments on Twitter really were that thought I'd just tune in, but I'm definitely going to be back for this tomorrow. So that's be really interesting to see what the viewing figures are for it tomorrow. I think my only criticism is that there's not enough of it going to be shown on BBC now. I don't think the BBC are showing another one live. They're showing it sort of online and streaming and stuff. But I don't think they're showing it actually on TV until sort of the knockout rounds for the women's game. And I hope that changes in the reaction that it got. I really hope they can, find some space in the schedule to show stuff. Because I think it's really given women's cricket a platform. And some of the play was great. There was fantastic bowling. There was some great hitting. The tactics were really interesting to watch, and it was a really close game. It went down to the last couple of balls, so that was everything that you really could have hoped for in the start of it. So yeah, sorry, I've talked a lot there, but it was exciting stuff.
Well, it's good. It's actually good to hear, I think, your perspective on it, and I think overall the impact is that we've started off really strong for a new format of the game that has been heavily criticised for the past 2 years, and that's always some free to air. They did quite well. It's interesting to hear about the POV perspective of it as well, with the helmet cams and stuff. They do it in Formula One and some other sports as well now, which I think adds another kind of dimension to the whole viewing experience. But it sounds like really good. I'm looking forward to the game this evening and having a chance to watch that. And I just hope that I think it's fair, and I think, like you say, the critics of the 100, I get it. And I think we've had loads of discussions, on the pod and off the pod about kind of reasons behind.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the more cricket, it's going to be better for the game. And if the audience is younger and it's getting younger generations into the sport earlier, and you introduce them to the other formats of the game, but if this is what kind of catches them on, what's the problem with that? It's
exactly, and that's it. And I still see this as the ECB trying to fix what they messed up with T20 cricket, because they invented T20 cricket and they didn't capitalise on it in the same way. This is them trying to fix their mistakes, and it does take something new. It takes a bit of controversy to get people interested, and if it works, there's no denying the audience, certainly the live audience that were there at the stadium, were a lot younger than you would see even in a normal T20 game, where that is obviously younger than you get in Test matches. So if that continues and this is something for the kids, then sign me up for it. I'm absolutely on board, because I want it to work, because the more it works, the more money, the more interest there is in cricket, the more it will be shown on free-to-air TV, and that all has to be good. The long term, how many future England Test players were in the audience of that game? I'd be really interested to know, because I would hope that there's some that this will spark, those 5, 6, 7-year-old kids in there.
Yeah,
I want to try that, and then hopefully grow up to be the next Ben Stokes, the next Josh Butlers, the next whoever's. That's the ultimate aim, and that's what ECB are trying to get out of this. And let's hope that works, because that would be good for everyone that happens. So yeah.
Yeah. It'd be great to hear from anybody listening to today's pod what they think. Have they been converted by kind of the recent games? If you've had a chance to watch it or watching it this evening, has your mind changed, or are you still sternly on one side, the other, or still on the fence about it? Let us know your thoughts and write into our Stick podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. We've always tried to be a bit neutral in the.
We try,
but we try and be optimistic as well. So generally speaking, we always want to be.
Yeah, apart from stuff like Joe Denley or Australians or that kind of stuff. So then our objectivity does become slightly tainted. But
yeah, I mean, can you imagine if Joe Denley started playing for the Northern Superchargers? My loyalties would be split right down the middle. Wouldn't I wouldn't know what to do. I might.
You might condemn the whole 100. You might take back everything that you've said in the past 10 minutes and be like, it's awful, stop it. Let them have 220.
Oh dear, Don. But yeah, I am looking forward to the first Northern Superchargers game, which is going to be my team that I've adopted, and see where we get to with that. And I'm pretty confident I'm probably going to go out and buy a Northern Superchargers shirt now. I've apparently in the crisp world I have to support Pop Chips. So come on, Pop Chips. I've never eaten them in my life, but they're popped, not fried. That's their motto. So that's apparently good. I don't know.
Actually, the motto.
Yeah, apparently popped, not fried.
Popped, not fried.
Yeah,
cool.
There we are. So I'm going to go out and buy some Pop Chips. But as we should be neutral. Other crisps are available, and all you need to do is look for the different shirts, so you can find out where all the different crisps are available. So there you go. I'm quite happy with mine. London Spirit has got quite a posh crisp. It's got Tyrrells. So classic. I mean, that's
pretty classy.
The North London elitist. Yeah, that's about right.
I'll take it. It's the kind of bar snack that you would have at a cocktail bar in the Gherkin, probably.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that is absolutely true. I'm not sure Pop Chips what you'd have it in Leeds on a Saturday night, is it? But still, there we go.
Oh dear, awesome.
Cool. Well, there we are. That's 100. Go and tune in tonight if you haven't watched it, or tune into the next game that's available. The other thing I should say is I believe all the 100 games are being shown on Sky Sports' YouTube channel, which I think is free, so it's obviously online rather than on actual TV. But if you've got smart TV, you can tune into it, and I believe that is the case. So don't shoot me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is the case, and that would be really good. So if you have got into it, get yourself onto YouTube and find out where you can there. And if you've really enjoyed it, get down to a game as well, because there's nothing better than seeing cricket live, and they do seem to put on a show. There's a lot of music and fireworks and all kinds of stuff going on, so they did a good job of getting those getting that sort of entertainment factor in there as well. So yeah, get involved.
Also, just to add, last little bit for the 100, it looks as though the jerseys for the 100 are now on sale. There's a few cricketing shops that seem to have them. So, if you want to go cop a jersey, just have a look online, because they are looking to be available now for about 50 quid, I think, at most places.
Yeah, I've been looking at that, and they've got other sort of merch and stuff. If 50 quid's a bit steep for you, they've got t-shirts in like the same colours with the logo and stuff for like 15 quid for adults, and about 12 quid for kids as well. So, that's they seem to have got their merch stuff sorted out, which we complained about a while ago because we got a bit excited looking at stuff earlier, but they do seem to have got themselves a little bit sorted now. So yeah, I'm going to go and get myself signed up for something.
We're going to have to put another wager on for a jersey at some point, whenever the next series or test is.
And you still need to buy your last one, but I will do that. I haven't forgotten about it. I'm unsure of. Apparently, I've been looking on the merch for the Northern Superchargers.
Yeah.
Their motto, apparently, which I didn't know they had, is "Doers, not dreamers." I'm not sure about that, I'll be honest, but
Ooh.
There you go. Doers, not dreamers. Hey up. Just imagine that being said in a Yorkshire accent, I'm just not sure it works,
But, doers, not dreamers.
Right.
Can't you do both, though? I mean...
Well, You know, I think the thing is, people from Yorkshire, they don't have to dream, they just get on with it. So, so I'm going to go on and get myself at least a t-shirt, I think, sorted. So, yeah. Good.
Awesome.
Good times.
Cool. Right. Captaincy, I guess.
Captaincy, I'm just wondering whether we want to hold that for another time, because
I think
we're running out of steam. We've been going quite a while, but that took a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah.
We might even have done so much prep. We might have another episode in us not next week. I'm not here next week. In 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks' time with more and different kind of stuff. So I think just some points we are going to replace Umpire Strikes Back with another kind of quiz show themed thing that we haven't decided on yet, and some other
decided game. Yeah. So we're going to come back with another new and interesting feature. Quiz based, obviously, because we love a quiz.
We do love a quiz.
So yeah, that will be back. We will be back. We will continue talking about the 100. We'll talk more about the T20 World Cup because there's stuff being announced about that. We will talk about England captains, and because we got into a big debate and we decided we should have hit record. You know, that would have been a podcast for ourselves, and we missed it. But we will try and recreate that for you about what job is harder, which captaincy is harder, and which captain is better, maybe. So we'll go with that. But all in all, I need to go and have a lie down and get some water because it's over 27 degrees in this room now, and I'm like, oh, well, that's it. I need to go for a lie down.
That's it. Well, thanks everyone for kind of listening. I will let Jonathan go into how to get in touch with us. I just said Wrong End of the Stick podcast earlier, but do tell them where to go if they want to email.
Yeah, you were telling people to get in touch. You didn't tell them how.
I didn't know how.
If you would like to get in touch, you can find us. We are on Twitter. We're on Twitter fairly regularly at Wrong End Podcast. We are also on Instagram at Wrong End Podcast, or you can email us wrongendofthestick@hotmail.com. Any of those is absolutely fine. You could probably write us a letter, but don't, because we haven't given you our address, so that would be tough. But do any of those and reach out to us. Let us know what you think of the 100 in particular. That seems to be the big talking point at this point. If you can spare a minute of your time, go on wherever you download your podcasts and give us a nice little 5-star review. Power 5, that's it. Everything's coming back today. So, go and give us a nice little 5-star review, and that would be lovely. Tell your friends to go and download it. And, if you've got people that who just started watching the 100, point them in our direction, and we will guide them in the ways of the 100. Hopefully.
Love it.
We'll try anyway.
We'll
thank you for listening, everyone. And we will be back in a couple of weeks' time. We won't leave it as long this time, I promise.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. And, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time. Yeah. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.